Welcome back to the Power Hour. Thank you all for joining us today. You could be anywhere, but you are wanting to improve your health, and that is so incredibly important. Well, joining us to help us do that is Dr. Dennis H. Harris. He is the medical director of a company called Livinity. He is a graduate from Ohio State University Medical School. He has been involved in Department of Physical Medicine and Rehabilitation at Southwest Pain Control Program to date. He has been granted 3 U.S. patents. His passion is non-surgical diagnosis and treatment of pain. I like that idea. He is in the forefront of much of the design of Livinity's products. He joins us here today. Thank you, Dr. Harris, for joining us in the Power Hour.
Oh, it is my pleasure.
Well, we're going to kind of divert a little over from pain and talk about diabetes. Not that you don't get pain from diabetes, and people with diabetes probably know that, but the issue of diabetes is so huge, and it is growing every day in the United States.
It is actually unbelievable. I mean, you know, in history, we've gone through in this world all kinds of epidemics. From the early 1300s, where we had the Black Plague, they killed 21 million people then. 1918, we had the Asian flu that went around the world and killed 40 million people. We have AIDS that have killed 33 million people. But let me tell you that diabetes puts all of the rest of them out to lunch.
Wow.
It is absolutely unreal. The International Diabetes Federation has already said that this year, that worldwide there are 366 million people that have diabetes. I mean, that's incredible. And in the United States, in our own country, they've already diagnosed 26 million people. But that's only the tip of the iceberg. Because, I don't know why, you know, we do these goofy things in medicine sometimes. We would test people's blood sugar, fasting blood sugar, time after time after time, and all of a sudden it'd be up and they'd say, whoa, you've got diabetes, like it happened overnight. You know, yesterday you were great and today you got diabetes. Well, we know that's not true. And as a matter of fact, there's a period of time of somewhere between 2 years and 10 years, during which time your blood sugar metabolism starts to become abnormal and gradually gets a little worse and a little worse and a little worse until, at some particular point, it's bad enough that they can detect it and you fall into the diabetic range and they make that diagnosis. But that period of time before the diagnosis of diabetes is made is now called pre-diabetes. And there's been all the experts that have now come out and said, we have enough evidence to say with absolute certainty that 100 million Americans are pre-diabetic. That's 1 out of every 3. So
wow.
If you're in a crowd and you look around and you're there and 2 other people are next to you, if you're not pre-diabetic, one of the 2 of them is. I mean, that's incredible.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let me go back over this again. You say there are 26 million people in the United States with diabetes today.
Yes.
That includes type 1 and type 2?
That includes type 1 and type 2, but, you know, type 1 diabetes is, we used to call it juvenile diabetes because it usually appears in childhood, and that is a different kind of entity. Type 1 diabetes only amounts to about 4% of that whole number. There's only about 1 million type 1 diabetics in the country.
Really?
Yeah, that's right. 25 million of these 26 million diabetics are type 2 diabetics. And the entire group of 100 million people with prediabetes are type 2.
That is phenomenal. I had no idea it was that much for type 2 versus type 1. Now, what about if we were to say children versus adults? Are we seeing type 2 diabetics in children now?
Yeah, you know, this is incredible. I mean, what we've done to ourselves is unbelievable because 15 years ago, we never saw kids with type 2 diabetes. It would be as rare as hen's feathers or as elephant feathers, you know. But now we're seeing kids 6 years old, 4 years old, 8 years old that have type 2 diabetes. So we're doing something to create that, and we'll talk about that. And, you know, one of the problems, you talk about prediabetes, let me just tell you that an article came out not long ago that said that by the year 2020, the cost of treating diabetes in the United States alone would be $3.35 trillion per year. $3.35 trillion. That's unbelievable. And I'm telling you that if these, here's the real problem. We talk about 100 million people with prediabetes. Most of them don't know they have that. And if we don't help them find it out, and teach them to do something about that, all of them will eventually become diabetic. And that's we can't afford that. It would break this country, $3.35 trillion a year. Where's that going to come from? Plus, we don't have the medical facilities. We don't have the doctors. We don't have the nursing personnel to treat all these people.
Yeah, well, we will with this wonderful new health care plan because they have all the money in the world.
Obamacare is here to save us.
Yeah, they have all the money in the world, so I don't know what your concern is.
You know what? I feel a whole lot better now.
Yeah, no kidding. And we didn't have any money to pay for Medicaid and Medicare and Medicaid before, and it only promoted people having illnesses because you could continue to smoke and get every kind of oxygen concentrator you need for free because you are, of course, sick, and you continue to smoke. I mean, it is not a prevention program. It is a disease promotion program, if you ask me.
Yeah, that's very well put.
But back to the 100 million pre-diabetics, that is frightening. So in our audience today, 1 out of every 3 people listening to this program, you're saying, probably will be diabetic. And you
Absolutely. If we don't. So how do we recognize people that have prediabetes? How do they recognize it, okay? There are certain signs and symptoms that people need to be aware of. This is really important, folks. You got to write this down. The signs and symptoms of prediabetes. 1 is unexplained weight gain. If you have gained 10 pounds during the past year and during the past year, and you haven't changed anything that you're doing, you're not more active, you're not less active, you're not changing your meal pattern, anything like that, that's one of the big signs of prediabetes. A lower energy level. I mean, you used to come home at night and eat dinner and go out and do things with the kids or do things with your family or friends or whatever. Now you come home, you grab something to eat, you want to sit on the couch, you really don't want to do anything. Fatigue after meals. How many people out there have gone out for lunch, had a nice lunch, they felt real good, and 30 minutes, an hour and a half later, they are so tired that all they can think of is, geez, I just have a hard time even thinking. I wish I could lay down and take a nap. Hyperirritability or mood swings. If you're suddenly becoming the old crab in the house, I mean, pay attention because that's one of the things that is really a hallmark of this. And mood swings, as I mentioned. If little things irritate you and you get angry and that's not your normal pattern, that's one of the tip-offs. What I call fuzzy thinking, where you're just not able to focus in well, you're not able to think clearly about problems and how to solve them, you're a little disorganized in your work all of a sudden. This is fuzzy thinking. Poor sleep quality. You sleep 8 hours, say, wow, that was really good, and you get up and you're really tired.
Yes.
So those are a few of the things. Increased anxiety levels, increased depression, decreased motivation, just don't feel like doing anything. That's a little different from the reduced energy. Reduced energy, you're fatigued and you don't want to do anything. This is a definite decrease in motivation. You don't want to think about having, what you're going to be planning for the next day or 2 or 3 or a week. Or you don't want to be thinking of planning other projects around the house. Reduced libido. And that applies to both men and women, but in men, we have another thing that goes along with that, and that is ED, erectile dysfunction. Very, very common in prediabetes. In fact, prediabetes is in a lot of publications. They're now saying prediabetes and diabetes is the number 1 cause of erectile dysfunction. So if things aren't working the way they used to, take a look at this. That's important. High blood pressure. Here's some of the things, these couple of things are pet peeves of mine. Let me tell you. High blood pressure is really a complication of diabetes, but we see it occur very early in a lot of people during the time that they're pre-diabetic. So here you go. You go in for your physical examination, and the doctor says, well, you got high blood pressure. What are they going to do? We need to put you on blood pressure medication and bring that down. That's wrong. What they should be doing is asking the question, why is your blood pressure up? And get to the core of it. But this is part of the difference between allopathic medicine and holistic medicine. We try and get down to the real heart of the problem, and they're ignoring it. It simply gives them another opportunity to treat people without getting to the other thing that happens, you go in and the doctor says, wow, your cholesterol's really up, or your triglycerides are up, or your LDL's up, your HDL's down. All your lipids are messed up. Same thing. What do? We got to put you on statins. No. Ask the question. If the doctor doesn't ask the question, folks, ask him, why is my cholesterol up, Doc? Why don't we check me for prediabetes? Why is my blood pressure up? Check me for prediabetes. Keep it in your mind. We have a better way to do that. It's got to be 12 years ago now.
Let's take this 4-minute break. We'll be back.
Okay.
We're also going to talk about the Are You at Risk for Diabetes? A self-test with Dr. Dennis Harris after this 4-minute break. Stay tuned to the Power Hour. This is Joyce Riley.
Hi, I'm Joyce Riley, and many of you know that for years I was a cardiovascular heart transplant nurse. Since that time, I've educated myself on the importance of preventative care. It all begins with providing your heart and vascular system with the building blocks for good health. Strauss Heart Drops is the original formula that was copied by others but never duplicated. Strauss Heart Drops were developed by a master herbalist, Jim Strauss, after he suffered a heart attack in 1979. His doctor said he would only survive if he had heart bypass surgery. And Jim said no. He developed Strauss Heart Drops, the formula that has been copied by others but never been surpassed. Get the original Strauss Heart Drops 4-ounce bottle for only $79.99. Call the Power Hour at 877-817-9829, 877-817-9829. You've probably heard about the other products that have tried to copy the Strauss formula. Well, get the original Strauss Heart Drops by calling 877-817-9829. That's 877-817-9829. Now you can really do your heart right with Strauss Heart Drops.
Gold. It's like nothing else on Earth. From the Romans through the Renaissance, from the Industrial Age to the Space Age, gold has weathered the test of time. For 6,000 years, gold has remained the ultimate store of wealth. According to the World Gold Council and the U.S. Mint, demand is at an all-time high. The stage is being set for the reemergence of gold as the common-sense alternative to a fiat paper currency that gets weaker every day. Midas Resources is proud to offer the hard-hitting report that arms you with the truth you need to protect you and your family from the Fed's plans for your hard-earned money. Don't gamble with your future. Call Midas Resources today and ask for your free copy of As Good as Gold. Call 1-800-686-2237 for the report the Fed hopes you'll never see. As Good as Gold can be yours by calling 800-686-2237. If you have ever thought about owning gold, you must read this report. Call Midas today at 800-686-2237.
Fight back this cold and flu season with the world's best garlic extract, Ali C. Why Ali C? Because it helps your body fight viruses, bacteria, and fungi. Ali C has been scientifically proven in double-blind studies using low doses to greatly reduce the number, severity, and duration of common colds. Ali C contains 300 milligrams of stabilized allicin, the active ingredient in crushed garlic. Studies show Ali C is effective against MRSA, bacterial, fungal, and viral infections. One tablet of Ali C has the equivalent of 40 cloves of garlic. Ali C supports your body's resistance to all types of conditions and can help lower high blood pressure and high cholesterol. So boost your body's resistance to infection with nature's best garlic extract, Ali C. For more information and to order Ali C, call 877-888-7126 or go to garlichealthproducts.com. That's 1-877-888-7126 or go to garlichealthproducts.com for your Ali C today.
If you like cow's milk, you'll love Camel Milk. Yes, the newest, oldest thing in the world, Camel Milk, has sustained civilizations for thousands of years. Here's just one user's testimonial.
My Lyme-stricken boy developed severe allergies to nearly every food he ingested. At first, I was scared to death to try Camel Milk, but he had no allergic reactions of any kind, nothing. The Camel Milk was wondrous in healing his GI issues, and it's the one thing I can attribute to his getting out of bed after almost a year spent there, too ill to do anything.
Camel Milk is loaded with health benefits far superior to other milk, is rich in B vitamins, and 3 times higher in vitamin C than cow's milk, 10 times higher in iron. Camel Milk comes fresh or frozen from your trusted local family farm. Humpback Dairies of Miller, Missouri. To order, call this number, 1-417-848-7570. That's 1-417-848-7570. Call 1-417-848-7570 for Camel Milk, the best kept health secret ever.
Welcome back to Power Hour. 24 minutes after the hour, you're in the right place. Dr. Dennis Harris, MD, is our guest today. His specialty is in pain medicine, physical medicine, and rehabilitation. We're talking about diabetes today, where a lot of the pain comes from, in neuropathy, etc. And we're talking about pre-diabetics, how to tell if you are one, and there is a test. There's also something we're going to talk about called GlucoLive, which is his patented product. It is so good it has been patented, and we'll talk about that in just a few minutes also. Dr. Harris, when we talk in terms of the being at risk for diabetes, you developed this self-test, which is kind of, I got to tell you, it's going to give people a shock when they take this test.
Because, as we said, most people really don't know if they're pre-diabetic or not. And when they take this test, they can find out. This test it's a written test. You don't have to prick your finger and all that type of thing and send blood off. It's not that. This is a written test. You can take it in 2 minutes. Joyce, I hope that there's a way you can make it available, but if there isn't, they can always email me and I'll send it out.
Oh, no, we'll put it in the email blast today.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Folks, make a copy of this test. Make a bunch of copies. Hand them out to every single person you know. I mean, if we help them find out if they're pre-diabetic or diabetic, we've diagnosed over 20,000 people with pre-diabetes using this test. And we've diagnosed over 2,500 people that have been diabetic and never knew it before. And when they took the test, they went to their doctor, they confirmed it with blood studies, and sure enough, that's what it was. So it's a very, very accurate test. It doesn't cost you a dime. And then if you take the test, you find out if you're pre-diabetic. You know, one of the issues, Joyce, is that you say, well, gee whiz, I mean, people see doctors all the time and they're doing blood tests. Why aren't they finding these people that are pre-diabetic? Because they're doing the wrong test. They're doing fasting blood sugars, and in most people, fasting blood sugars are the last thing to become abnormal.
Well, and one other point, Dr. Harris, is how much money can you charge for this 10-question test? I mean, they can't charge for this 10-question test. You give it away free. You basically, it's a self-diagnosis, self-test that you can determine whether or not you have this, and there's no money in 2 pieces of paper.
Yeah, so why would anybody be interested in it?
Bingo.
Right?
Bingo.
Well, folks, I mean, you have a chance of saving people's lives and saving people's quality of life if you give them this test and you help them identify it. And we're going to tell you what to do about it, because if you here's the real issue. If we can get people diagnosed as pre-diabetic before they become overtly diabetic, we can give them a 90% chance of never becoming diabetic. 90%.
Wow.
And we'll talk about doing that, but, you know, what happens? You know, talk about all these type 2 diabetics. And as a matter of fact, most type 2 diabetics are overweight. So obesity and overweight, you know, basically comes into play with this. About 85 to 90% of the type 2 diabetics are overweight, and most of those are obese. When you eat simple carbohydrates, whether it's sugars or other simple carbs, the pancreas revs up to produce insulin to get that blood sugar or that glucose out of your bloodstream and into the cells where it's burned for fuel. So you get this surge of insulin. And this ends up causing too much of your blood sugar to be taken out of the blood into the cells. It results in your blood sugar and insulin levels. And what happens at that point? And think about this, because this happens to you guys all the time out there. This leaves you feeling tired, it leaves you feeling hungry, and it leaves you wanting to eat something with a high carbohydrate content. You get carb cravings. And when you satisfy that, it starts the whole cycle over again. So we see this happening all the time. Basically, Joyce, you were talking about the type 2 or type 1 and type 2 diabetics. And type 1 diabetes is caused by, it's an autoimmune disease. Our immune system, for whatever reason, goes a little nutsy, becomes hyper, and recognizes our beta cells in the pancreas. Those are the cells in the pancreas that produce insulin. It recognizes those as an alien invader. And like the immune system is supposed to do in our body, it's supposed to protect us. So it gears up its army and it goes after these beta cells and it destroys them and kills them. And then you can't make insulin, and you are a type 1 diabetic. Insulin was discovered in 1921, and before that, type 1 diabetes, before that, was a 100% fatal disease.
Interesting. All right, we'll be back.
Every single person that had it died.
We got a 3-minute break. We'll be back with Dr. Dennis Harris. Stay tuned to the Power Hour. This is Joyce Riley. The Power Hour will continue.
America's #1 source for independent talk radio for over a decade. We are the GCN Radio Network.
My name is Gary Johnson. Today I reach out to you, members of all political parties, including the disaffected and disillusioned among the Republicans and Democrats. Today there's a handful of people in Washington ruining America for 330 million of us. They've kept our nation in a state of perpetual war and increasing unsustainable debt. This small group has presided over the elimination of our Bill of Rights and the systematic dismantling of our freedoms guaranteed us under our Constitution. We the people will never agree on the small things, but let's agree on the big thing. Our leaders have blown it. America is better and brighter than this. Be libertarian with me this one time, and I'll prove it to you. Live free.
Gary Johnson, Libertarian for President.
Paid for by Gary Johnson, 2012.
Healthy soils grow healthy plants. So before you plant your survival garden this year, is your soil healthy? Maximize your crisis garden soil with EM1 from Terraganics. EM1 Organic Soil Conditioner, Fertilizer Amendment, and Compost Accelerant provides healthier gardens and faster, efficient garden composting. EM1 from Terraganics.com quickly improves soil structure by increasing nutrient availability and converting organic matter into soil humus. This improves seed germination and root growth, improves plant quality, size, color, flavor, nutrient value of fruits and vegetables, and improves shelf life. And when rain is not in the forecast, no worries. EM1 improves moisture retention in soils, helping reduce drought stress. Just like you prepare all else, prepare your crisis garden for maximum yields with EM1 from Terraganics.com. Order now at TERAGANIX.com or call toll-free 866-369-3678. That's 866-369-3678. Terraganics. Life's getting better.
You store guns, ammo, and food and water, but do you store peace of mind when it comes to your firearms? Now you can with Duracoat. The last thing anyone needs is a firearm that won't work when you need it most. Improve the factory finish and Duracoat your firearms once for a lifetime of protection against rust and corrosion. And Duracoat also protects against water, salt water, mud, grime, or whatever nature throws at you. The Duracoat Shake and Spray Finishing Kit has everything you need to finish a complete firearm for just $34.95. No need for an airbrush or other spray equipment. Just degrease, then spray on Duracoat and let dry for a lifetime of protection. Duracoat is the simplest and most user-friendly firearm finish you can buy. Use Duracoat on knives, camping equipment, or anything metal, plastic, or wood you want to protect from the elements. Call 800-830-6677 or visit Duracoat.net. Spelled Duracoat.net. Duracoat, the finest firearm finish on the planet.
about your world. It's all about trying to feel better, think better, look better, act better, and function better. We can't prepare for anything in this world if we don't feel well, and we can't function if we can't think. So that's why we appreciate Dr. Dennis Harris so much on the program today, talking to us about this self-test for diabetes. Now, this is a very important test. I cannot underestimate the importance of this, or I cannot overstate the importance of this test, and I would encourage you all to get the email blast today. Now, if you are not on the email blast, and you purchase from the Power Hour, we will send it out to you. But we don't want to send out a whole bunch of letters and mailings. So when you purchase from the Power Hour, please just request this test. Are you at risk for diabetes? And we will send the self-test to you. He has done a very good job in promoting, in putting together this test, and I will tell you, you're going to be surprised at the responses. We've all got some work to do, I'm sure, including myself, on this test. So please take advantage of getting that. All right, when we talk in terms of being pre-diabetic, just how serious is that term pre-diabetic, Dr. Harris?
Well, pre-diabetic really means that you are somewhere probably 25 to 85% along the pathway leading to becoming diabetic. And why do I get so passionate about treating diabetes and doing it the right way? It's because of the fact that this is a horrible disease. I mean, people think, well, it's a little bit of a sugar problem, you know? Well, that's like having a little bit of cancer. It's just not true. That it's not something to slough off. It's not something to be casual about, because it will, little by little, take away your quality of life and in the end kill you. And the reason is because of all the complications. I mean, it's a pain in the butt to go ahead if you're diabetic and have to worry about your blood sugar and test things and worry about what you're eating and do all the other things. That's a minor problem. The complications are very, very serious. And every time your blood sugar spikes up, goes high, and I should explain. Our blood sugar, when you see it on your test, it's one value. But in real life, our blood sugar varies up and down all day long, depending on how active we are, depending on how stressed we are, depending on when we eat, things like that. But it does that within a fairly narrow range. When you're pre-diabetic, that range begins to widen, and the highs get higher and the lows get lower until pretty soon, instead of going, it's woo down and woo up and woo down. So that's really what begins to occur. Well, let me tell you that every single time your blood sugar spikes up, it is causing damage to the inner lining of your blood vessels. And as time goes on, that gets worse and worse. When you're diabetic, you have a 400% higher risk of heart attacks, a 300% higher risk of strokes, a 700% higher risk of high blood pressure.
Whoa.
25% of all diabetics begin to develop damage to the retina of the eye. It's called diabetic retinopathy. It is the number one cause of blindness in people under 65 years old everywhere in the world. 10% of all the people with diabetes end up with kidney failure. It is the number one cause of kidney failure everywhere in the world. 70% of all diabetics have neuropathy or nerve damage. It is the number one cause of nerve damage everywhere in the world, and because of the damage that occurs to the circulation in the skin of the feet, it eventually leads to ulcerations, infections, gangrene, and amputations. And in this day and age, in our medical care system, where we have wound care centers, we have all kinds of things, we cut off 100,000 legs every year. Because of diabetes. It is the number one cause of amputations of the lower extremities in every country all through the world. So I'm telling you, folks, is this the way you want to live, or do you want to have a 90% chance of never going there? That is really, really critical. And, one of the big problems that we see is the fact that the medical care system is treating diabetes absolutely, totally wrong. They're waiting until people's blood sugars spike, then they're giving them insulin or other medications to bring it down. The damage is already done.
Mm-hmm.
You can't treat that way. Yes, it may average out okay because half the time you're way up above normal and the other half the time you're way down below normal. So when they do an A1C, which is kind of an average of 90 days of your blood sugars, it may look at least close to normal or only a little bit elevated. But that doesn't tell you what's going on a minute-by-minute, day-to-day basis.
Okay, well, let's talk about the fact that you have taken this test. You're either pre-diabetic or you are, like, looking at diabetes in the face, because you rank people here from normal blood sugar metabolism to pre-diabetic to diabetic. So let's say you're pre-diabetic or diabetic from this test. Where do you start? What do you do then? Because, you know, I've got to commend you on being as forthright as you are on this subject, because in medicine, in surgery in medicine with diabetes, now, an example, I had an attorney for a patient one time, and he had such severe diabetes, but he was totally non-compliant diet-wise, mm-hmm. and he ended up having 30 surgeries, and he was literally a trunk. This attorney was a trunk laying in the bed by the time they finished with him. Yeah.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. We see it. That's why I was saying you can't be in denial about this, folks. You got to really deal with this problem.
Yes.
And whether you're diabetic and not well controlled, or whether you're pre-diabetic, what I'm going to tell you really is an answer for you. It's what I call the triangle of. So picture a triangle, and on one point there is diet. The way you got this way was because you're eating way too many carbohydrates. And when you continue to eat more and more carbohydrates, you overwhelm the pancreas. Your cells get to the point where they do not want to recognize your own insulin. That's called insulin resistance. And it's like you were not manufacturing enough insulin, even though you are. So you've got to deal with that. And the heart of the problem is you've got to go ahead and cut down your carbohydrates. I'm going to tell you that there are a lot of books that say don't have your daily intake of calories from carbohydrates exceed 40% of your total calories. That's wrong. That's way too much. If you really want to control this, no more than 20% of your daily calories should come from carbohydrates.
No more than how much? Say that again.
No more than 20% of your daily intake of calories should come from carbohydrates. So what does that really mean? You know, part of the problem is the labeling. I mean, if you look at the labels on things, you say carbohydrates, it doesn't say anything about calories. It talks about how many grams there are. So how do you figure that out? Well, there are 4 calories for every gram of carbohydrates. So how many calories should the average person have? If you're eating correctly, which most of us are not, being in America, if you're eating correctly, men should really be taking in no more than 2,000 calories a day, and women 1,600 calories a day, if you want to keep your weight unchanged. If you want to lose weight, you need to drop that down. But if you want to keep your weight unchanged, that's what you should do. So let me figure something out for you. If you're a guy, I said 20% of your calories. So 20% of 2,000 is 400. If there's 4 calories per gram of carbohydrates, then you divide that 400 by 4 and you get 100, and that's how many grams of carbohydrate you should be limiting yourself to every single day.
Interesting.
And with women, it comes out to 80 grams of carbohydrates every single day. If you're above that, you're putting yourself at risk. So that's what you need to do. And, you know, we'll do another whole talk somewhere along the way on weight loss, and maybe that would be a good thing to do, because part of this is if you're pre-diabetic or you're diabetic and you're overweight, you got to lose the weight. You got to really start to work on it. You have to lose it. You know, what bothers me is Americans they're always trained anymore to take the easy way out. I want the quick fix. I want this taken care of tomorrow, and I don't want to have to do any work. So now the latest one-stop cure has a lot of appeal for these people, and that is gastric bypass or gastric banding, and the surgeons are doing everything possible to go ahead and promote this as the cure for diabetes, as the cure for everything. Mm-hmm. They're even wanting to do it on people who are non-obese diabetics. I mean, where does that...
Oh, you're kidding me. That seems like malpractice.
It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. I mean, in St. Pierre University Hospital here in this country, they did a big study about this. They followed people that had gastric bypass or banding for 12 years. Those people that lost weight did maintain the weight loss in about 40% of the cases. But let me tell you the downside that they don't tell you. 39% of those had major complications. 39% of all the people that had major complications, 22%, another 22% had minor complications, 50% required removal of the gastric band, and 60% needed at least one or more additional surgeries. And even the people doing it said, we have a very high failure rate. Now, why would you do that? Why would you ever even consider that? It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. With a high failure rate.
Yeah, so let's stay with the diet a minute. You know, one of the things that Dr. Wallach talks about a lot is gluten-free diets. Well, I've got to tell you, until I started listening to him and began to research it, I didn't really realize the fact that there was a lot of research done on this, and let me tell you that eating a gluten-free diet can really be of significant benefit in trying, if you're a type 2 diabetic, in trying to go ahead and get your diabetes under control. So one of the things you really need to consider is not only a low-carb diet, low-carb and lower calorie, but in addition to that, a gluten-free diet makes a huge difference. And if you do a gluten-free diet, you're really removing a lot of the sources of carbohydrates anyway.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, what you really need to do then is cut out all the white potatoes. Cut out everything white, folks. If it's white, it's bad. It really is. So enough on diet. What is the second point of the triangle? The second point of the triangle is the part that everybody said, oh, Doc, come on. You got to exercise 30 minutes every day. You need to do some kind of aerobic activity 30 minutes a day. I don't mean every third day, every second day, every fourth day, because you won't do it. You cannot get into a habit when you don't do something every day. So you really need to do 30 minutes of everyday activity.
Now that makes way too much sense. Just do it 30 minutes every day. That's too much like right.
I know. I can't stand it. So, and the last thing is what I call targeted nutrition, the third point on the triangle. And let me just tell you, folks, if you lost your excess weight and you exercised, and you got on the low-calorie diet and low-carb diet that I'm talking about, and you exercise 30 minutes a day, just those two things would give you a 60% chance of never developing diabetes and never developing the complications of it.
Wow.
If you add the targeted nutrition, that your chances of eliminating that risk go up to 90%. So what do I mean by targeted nutrition? There are a lot of products around that are just good nutrient products. Take them, and they're going to have a lot of different benefits in your body, but they're not specific for anything. GlucoLiv is a product that I developed for Livinity. I've got to tell you, it was developed very specifically to add and treat sugar abnormalities, blood sugar abnormalities. And here's what it does. It's a very unique product, and it's because it's so unique that I did get a patent on it. It lowers blood sugar. There are a lot of things that are natural that we can point to that lower blood sugar. But this also has ingredients that will stimulate the pancreas to produce more insulin when we need it. Well, Doc, why do we need more insulin? You know, part of the problem is we're producing too much because we have too much sugar. Well, we need more at certain times. After meals, after exercise, after periods of stress, or like doing things like this show, where I get excited. You need more insulin then. So this automatically does that. The biggest thing that this does, it's kind of an adaptogenic product because it balances blood sugar. And what do I mean by that? it doesn't do any good to just drop your blood sugar. I mean, there are tons of medications on the market that do that. There are other natural products that do that. So I'm not concerned about just dropping your blood sugar. Getting it back in balance. You remember I described how these swings of blood sugar occur and how much damage that occurs in your vascular system when you spike up high. Well, what this does, when it detects your blood sugar going up, it starts to push it down. When it detects when it detects your blood sugar dropping down too low, which is a big problem in diabetes, then it pushes it back up. So it brings it into much more of a normal balance where that range of highs and lows becomes narrower and narrower and narrower.
Now,
when I talk about weight loss, we talk about decreasing your carbohydrates. Well, what's the big problem? You get carbohydrate cravings. And I talked about that because your sugar changes, your blood sugar changes. And when you're trying to cut down, you get these carbohydrate cravings. Why do we crave carbohydrate? Because they taste good. I mean, they really do. It's true. So, what happens with this? As this balances your blood sugar, it decreases your carbohydrate cravings. And the other thing that it does is, there's one particular ingredient in there that we'll talk about in a moment that really helps promote weight loss. So these are some of the things. Let me just read you one thing. I know we're running a little tight on time, but can I read one quick thing?
Sure.
A lady wrote me and she said, "Dear Dr. Harris, I had to undergo chemotherapy for cancer, and because of that, I became diabetic." That's not uncommon, folks. "I have taken Glucoliv with great results. My blood sugar had been 291 with medications, and nobody could get it down. Now it is down to 124. This is from 291, 124. And the other night it was as low as 91 before I ate dinner. In the morning when I get up, it's now 135, which is really good for me because it's never been that low. Yesterday, I didn't take any medication. I only took your product, and it stayed at 114 to 124.
That is
Yeah.
incredible. That's incredible.
Oh,
all right, we got to go to this break, and we want to find out who is this for? Is Glucoliv for everyone, or just diabetics, or pre-diabetics? We'll find out after this break from Dr. Harris. Stay tuned. 3-minute break. Final segment coming up. This is Joyce Riley.
We've all heard about antibiotics, but what about probiotics? Antibiotic means against life. Probiotic means pro-life. Antibiotics kill bacteria that are infectious and harmful to the body. They also kill the good bacteria, though, that are necessary for good health. Probiotics from living streams replaces the healthy balance of friendly bacteria and normalizes the digestive tract. Gastritis, ulcers, diarrheal diseases, just a few of the problems people develop when the intestinal flora is out of balance. Living Stream's probiotics create the healthy balance needed for good digestion, suppresses growth of pathogenic bacteria, and actually increases resistance to infection. Call the Power Hour, 877-817-9829. Order your Living Stream probiotics today. They're available in 2, 4, and 8-ounce bottles, and Living Stream's probiotics comes with a money-back guarantee. Get your body back in balance with Living Stream's probiotics today. 877-817-9829. That's 877-817-9829. Living Stream's probiotics. Everyone should be pro-life.
Big business has discovered the preparedness market, and that makes it difficult to know where to go and who to trust. MyPatriotSupply.com is owned and operated by patriots just like you. Has the best prices on storable food, non-GMO seeds, water filtration devices, home canning equipment, survival and self-reliance books, and more. MyPatriotSupply.com has old-fashioned values and the absolute best customer service in the industry. Look for the deal of the day. Unique, affordable survival supplies that fit anyone's budget. Get same-day shipping on all orders and free shipping on orders over $49. Call 866-229-0927, 866-229-0927, or visit MyPatriotSupply.com for emergency preparedness, self-reliance, and food independence. Shop with a name you know and a name you can trust. Before it's time to survive, it's time to prepare. MyPatriotSupply.com.
Digestive health is the key to wellness and elimination of toxins. That bears repeating. Digestive health is the key to wellness and elimination of toxins. And Pro EM1 Daily Probiotic Cleanse is the key to digestive health. Pro EM1 is a powerful liquid probiotic, strong enough to cleanse, gentle enough to use every day. Pro EM1 is dairy, wheat, and soy-free, contains all natural and certified organic ingredients, contains no preservatives or animal products, supports a healthy digestive and immune system, supports weight loss, improves absorption of food nutrients, aids in controlling yeast infections, is never freeze-dried, and uses 3 groups of live, viable, beneficial microbes to cleanse and remove toxins. Order Pro EM1 Daily Probiotic Cleanse at Terraganix.com, spelled TerraGanix.com, Terraganix.com, or call toll-free 866-369-3678. That's 866-369-3678. Pro EM1, the raw probiotic.
Welcome back to Power Hour. Thank you for joining us. Just to let you know, Pete Hendrickson will be our guest tomorrow on the Power Hour. We're talking to Dr. Dennis Harris today, and GlucoLiv is the item we've been talking about. We're going to find out who it's for, but I'll tell you how to get it. That is 855-995-6923. No, that's not how to get it. That's the call-in number. I'm sorry. 855-99. What did I do with the number? 855-252-TEAM. 855-252-TEAM, or go to powerhourteam.com is how you get the GlucoLiv and the other items we're going to be talking about. Who is indicated or who would be the person to take that would benefit from GlucoLiv, Dr. Harris?
Well, definitely anybody who is pre-diabetic and anybody who is diabetic should be on it. Even if you're on medication already, this will help balance out your blood sugar. Because even if you're on medicine, what's happening is you're spiking. The medicine's working, and while it's working, it's pushing your blood sugar down. But in between that time and the next time, because they only work for a very, very short time in the body when you're taking medications, in between that time, your blood sugar is spiking up and down. So you got to keep this under control. You got to balance it. When I work with people all the time. So folks, write me. If you're having a problem, if you take the test and you find out you're pre-diabetic, I've got a whole program for you that's just waiting, and I'll send it out to you. And if you're diabetic and not in good control, we can definitely get you back in control. We can go ahead and decrease or eliminate the medications that you're on.
Wow.
We've even been able to get people off of insulin. Now, Youngevity also has Sweeties, and that is another product that lowers blood sugar. I don't think it balances it quite as well, but that's a personal observation. And a lot of people do very well with that. I'm using that in combination. I'm using the two things in combination in a lot of people, GlucoLiv and the Sweeties, and I'm getting people off more and more of their medications. But you got to work with me one-to-one to do that, and you can do it through email. My normal email, by the way, is doc@livinity.com, if you haven't gotten it already. And right now I'm having trouble with the email. So when you email me, email it to that email address, but also send it to the Dr. Snore, THEDR SNORE at AOL.com. The Dr. Snore at AOL.com, and that way I'll be sure that I'll get it. But go ahead and write me.
Okay.
I will take care of you personally.
Well, I appreciate your doing that and giving individual attention. By the way, he does not charge for that, listeners. That's information and education you can get on now the GlucoLiv. Now, also, I know the NeuroLiv is another important product for diabetics. Do you have time to talk about that?
Oh, I definitely do. One of the most frustrating, the commonest complication of diabetes and pre-diabetes, by the way, is neuropathy or nerve damage. It is really frustrating for doctors and patients because there is absolutely no medication, none, that will heal or regenerate damaged nerves. NeuroLiv does that. It will really heal the nerve, and it will really go ahead and reverse the damage. But if you have any kind of, and it'll talk about that on your test, I think, that whether you have any kind of numbness or tingling or pins and needle sensation or burning sensations or pain or things like that.
You know, most doctors tell you can't reverse that process.
I know
NeuroLive and GlucoLive, ladies and gentlemen. We'll have him back on and continue this discussion of diabetes. But why don't you go ahead and get the test, get your GlucoLive, your NeuroLive if you have diabetes, and then we will continue this, and you can talk to him again when we have him back on the program. And it is doc@livinity.com, the Dr. Snore at AOL.com. This is Joyce Riley. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Harris. Amazing program. I love hearing a physician talk like this. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
You have a blessed day, and we will be back tomorrow, like we said, with Pete Hendrickson. Ladies and gentlemen, it's all about your health. Take care of it. Have a blessed day. We'll see you tomorrow.